He killed 33 times, 33 families forever changed. Tonight in News Extra, the victims of John Wayne Gacy. For the first time, Gacy is speaking out about the young men who died and the loved ones they left behind. And as you know, he is talking exclusively to Channel 2's Walter Jacobson. Walter?
Linda, John Gacy talks about his victims like so many numbers on a scorecard. He seems to have no feelings whatever about them as human beings. But look at them, and you see 33 children who lived and loved and were loved. John Bukovich was 18. Michael Bonin was 17. Randall Reffett, 15. Why them? There's no logical explanation for why them, any of them. Several were runaways from broken homes 14 years ago when John Gacy was preying on families that split apart. Today, in his arrogance, he lectures them.
And nowadays, do you realize by 1993 that 50% of the American families will be single-parented? And that shows a breakdown in the church and not being able to hold families together. And for this reason, children run away from home and seek love in other places.
And wind up in trouble. That's Gacy's view of things. Kids get in trouble because nobody cares about them. Gacy got in trouble when, after 32 victims, he strangled Robert Peast, an all-American, clean-cut local kid whose disappearance attracted police. Such carelessness is typical of a serial killer.
By the time they've committed 10 or 12, they are very, very laid back. By the time they commit 20, 15 or 20, they start getting careless, cavalier.
If it sounds familiar, it's because you've heard the experts say it about Jeffrey Dahmer. Gacy dislikes the comparison.
What do I think of Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't know the man personally, but I'll tell you this, that's a good example as to why insanity doesn't belong in the courtroom. Because if Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't meet the requirements for insanity, then I'd hate like hell to run into the guy that does.
Do you feel
Beyond that, I have no comment on Jeffrey Dahmer because I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer. And I would not, whether it's Berkowitz, whether it's Bundy, whether it's Williams, Wayne Williams down in Atlanta, or any of the others, or Charlie Manson. See, I don't comment about other cases for the simple fact is that I wasn't there.
Do you feel somewhat of a kinship with some of these people?
No, God, I hate that when they put me in the same club with them.
That's precisely the club that John Gacy belongs in. And the pain felt by Dahmer's victims is still felt 13 years later by the families of Gacy's victims.
When you have a child taken out of your life, it is like a little pieces taken out of your heart. You can never forget it. Everything keeps revolving back to the day when he did this or he did that, and we reminisce.
DELORES NEIDER, courageous mother, still in the same house on the northwest side of Chicago. 13 years remembering Johnny, who was a Marine and then studying to be an accountant. Like others, he went to Gacy's house for a job and never came back. About which John Gacy expresses no remorse whatever. On the contrary, he says he's a victim for being found guilty, the 34th victim, and he says the families are victims because they don't know who the real killer is.
I'm not only the victim here. I might be the 34th victim, but there are other victims to this crime, and that is the family. Because if I know that I didn't commit the crime, then I have been given the injustice, and so has the families. And nobody gives a damn about the families.
As though he cares, which clearly he does not. And when the families insist that John Gacy pay for his crimes with his life, his real feelings come out.
That one mother that gets on television all the time who thinks I should be given 33 injections, I think she ought to take 33 Valiums and go lay down. She goes on Geraldo's show and all these other shows talking about, I think it's Maori, I think is the name. Her Marine son. Her Marine son, if her Marine son was so great, what the hell did he run away from home 12 times?
It's not enough for him to be murdered.
I know that.
He's also lying. Johnny was not a runaway. And as to Gacy's snide remark about the Valium?
Well, Walter, it's hard for me to comprehend that Gacy has the right to say something like that about me because of the fact of what he did. What right has he to
say anything about you at all?
Right, right.
John Gacy now faces death by lethal injection. Tomorrow night, we'll hear what he has to say about that. In fact, Gacy's now talking about many things. He says, for example, that there were accomplices in his murders.
Had this case properly been investigated, I think you would have there should have been 4 indictments, a minimum of 4 indictments. And I say that sincerely.
And he names names tomorrow.